We're in a period where God is near to his people. And last week we were in the 10 days of awe, but preceding that was our Rosh Hashanah, our beginning new year, as we count our life with the Lord. Now we celebrated Rosh Hashanah, which is the new moon. It falls on 2 days, and the story behind that is because at the time they didn't know, because we count the days. The Lord teaches us to number the days. Didn't know when the new moon was actually going to hit. So they have started doing it for 2 days, and not started, it's just what they've always done. But it's based on as soon as you see the first sign of the new moon, not the full moon, that is when you know the new moon is here. So for Rosh Hashanah, because of the sign and the time and the seasons and the way things move in God's calendar, we look out for 2 days. And whenever we see it within those 2 days, starts in the evening and it goes 2 days later to the next evening, that's when we know our new year has started. And what's significant about that is when we read our Bible, the Lord is always teaching us to count the days, to be mindful of things. And when he delivered the children out of Israel, he told them, this will be the beginning of months for you. This will be your beginning. And we know that Passover falls on God's calendar day of Nisan 14. But we know our new moon, the day the earth, the day the world, the day we were all created in God's time was Tishri 1. So just to give you a calendar, you'll see 2 times when the Lord says this is the beginning. Rosh Hashanah, that's when the world was created. Tishri 1, and then this will be the beginning of months for you. This is our starting over point with God, is around Passover, Nisan 14, okay? So just to kind of lead into that, because the Song of Moses was given to the children of Israel right before he was moving to his next phase in life. And in that next phase, he wanted to prepare them because he wasn't going to be there. He was going to be the one to just watch them from afar. Because Moses didn't die. He passed over into another time with the Lord. And we all know why he couldn't. It was because he did not completely follow the instructions that the Lord had provided to them. So because of that, he was not allowed to see the promised land. But we do know that when Jesus was on the mountain and he was praying and Elijah came down and Moses came down, we knew that he was able to see the promise and come to pass. So he did get to see it, he just didn't get to see it with them. So God is good and he is merciful. So we are in the time period right now. We are moving into Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur is actually Sunday. Like this Sunday, like tomorrow. Because today is Saturday. And we will be in the evening, September the 24th, right? All the way until the evening of September the 25th. So Yom Kippur will start. And today is September 23rd. So you have a little bit of time. You got a little bit of time. But on Sunday evening, Yom Kippur starts. Now, in this ministry, we are not religious. We are more traditional. Religious meaning we're not like by the book. If you don't participate in something, we're not going to condemn you. We're not going to bring you to the front of the building and say, you did this like some ministries do. But we are just, if you want to participate, amazing. If you can't, for whatever health reasons, or you just haven't got to that point in your life, it is okay to honor God's tradition. And so we're more traditional than we are religious. Just so people know, I know what I'm about. I know who I serve. I know to honor his times and his seasons, but I'm not going to put that on somebody until they're ready. You know, everybody has to work out their own relationship, not soul salvation. Everybody has to work out their own relationship with the Lord. So we never in this ministry will condemn anyone. I mean, we're a teaching ministry, we're a training ministry, and we just want people to know how good it is to serve the Lord. And that's what the Song of Moses is about. Moses is coming, let me give you the scripture reference. Moses is coming out of his final days. He's moving into his future with the Lord. But in Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 1 to verse 52 is where we will find the Song of Moses, because we are people that may have started out in a different way of serving the Lord, meaning we have Pentecost in here, we have Baptists in here, we have Jewish people in here, we have people of different faiths that come and serve the Lord. You may not know that we're not going to stay within the first 5 books. We look at our whole Bible and we see how God talks to us through every portion, every section of the Bible. So our Torah portion comes out of Deuteronomy, but our half Torah is coming out of Hosea, chapter 14, 2 to 10, and Micah chapter 7, 18 to 20, and Joel chapter 2, 15 to 27. So I'm going to repeat those because I read them off fast. Hosea chapter 14, verse 2, and you're just writing this down because you guys know with my Torah portion, they're synopsis. They're not going to be like line by line. So it's just referencing that. Micah chapter 7, verse 18 to 20, and Joel chapter 2, verse 15 to 27. And those are, when you read those, the half Torah, the design of the half Torah is to actually bridge the Torah portion. And why do they do that? Because when we turned away, God told us before we turned away, if you do that, I will pull you out of where you are and put you in a place where you cannot serve me the way you were supposed to serve me. And what happens is we fell into slavery, we fell into idolism, we fell into pagan worship because we were disobedient. Your heart will be turned away. And when your heart is turned away from the Lord, He turns away from you. His eyes are always watching us, but He can't be in the presence of sin. He can't be in a place where you're choosing something other than Him. And we like to call them false gods, but I like to call them no gods because there's only one God, right? So everything other than God is a no God. This is a no-go for me. Okay? So that's what this half Torah is going to reference things from our Torah portion. It'll just highlight things Moses said specifically in this verse. So you'll see little references of Moses talking to the children of Israel saying, you're going to turn away. I know you are. But please remember to come back. God is going to watch you. He's not going to be able to assist you until you make that full commitment to return back to Him. That's what the Song of Moses is about. It's a reminder, and it's almost like a prophecy of what's going to happen. Because in this Torah portion, you'll see references in the book of Revelation. You'll see that when Moses was talking about different things happening, different beasts showing up, he was referencing Revelations. So we'll talk more about that, I promise you, next year. But for this year, we're also looking at or referencing in this Torah portion Romans chapter 10. This is the New Testament version because our church, we look at the whole Bible. Romans chapter 10, 14 to 11. Romans chapter 10, 14 to chapter 11, verse 12. And then Hebrews 9, 19 to 28. Now that is going to be the New Testament thing about Moses is talking in the Old Testament about coming back. So the prophets, Joel, Hosea, and Micah are going to be like coming back. But the New Testament team is going to be talking about the other part of what Moses said, to bridge it all together, which is come back because He's so good. Come back and persuade others to come back with you. So that's what you're going to see in the New Testament. It's like, I know you were going to turn away. Our forefathers were also ones who turned away, but we have to come back. We have to return to our God. And when you do, it will draw others to you. So that, in a nutshell, is what the Torah portion is about. But because we fall on Yom Kippur, I want us to look at John chapter 17. And why do I say that? Because right now, we're almost at the end of the 10 days of awe. Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, starts God's calendar. And for the next 10 days after we celebrate that festival, which you can eat on that one, after we celebrate that festival, we'll go ahead and start thinking about, what did I do in the preceding year that I don't want to bring into this new year, right? I'm thinking about, not about things that I've done wrong, but things that I want to get right. I want to get right with the Lord. So we're at the end of that 10 days of awe. And the 10 days of awe count up to Yom Kippur. And the mystery of Yom Kippur is who's getting in, right? They have this thing about, you have to fast. You can't let anything come by your mouth, because that's what the Lord commanded. You have to be on this fast. And they ran away with the spoon and said, because your name won't be written in the book of life. But your name is already in the book of life. So when we make that confession at the altar, and we say, I'm going to follow you, Lord, that's when we get written. But there are people in this 10 days of awe that their names haven't been written, not because they didn't fast, but it's because they haven't made a confession. So God follows order. He has a certain cycle that he's following. And when he gives us that 10 days of awe, it's 10 days of grace. It's 10 days of mercy, of where people who haven't come into the knowledge have the opportunity. And as we know, since God is consistently saying in his word, keep the feast days, count the days. I'm not going to tell you when I'm coming, but he's telling us when he's coming. Because in the Torah portion preceding this, he says, I will open up the mysteries of who I am and what I do to you. And what does that mean? The people that are in God know when he's coming. All we have to do is look at the festival. All we have to do is make it make sense, which is what we do here. The word makes sense. And if he showed up on the Feast of Booths in the form of a baby, he's going to probably show up again in the form of a man to collect his bride. And that's just a thought that I have. But I know one thing. If I don't have the feast day right, I know he's coming on a certain festival day. That's what I know, okay? So, back to Yom Kippur. Back to the fact that we are in this season where we are about to be written. You're already written. But where we are about to be confirmed, I should say, in the Lord. We're going to think about these things because Yom Kippur is on Sunday. And so I just want us to understand, what God is doing, what God is saying. And in John chapter 17, where I asked you guys to turn to, just so you can kind of understand what Jesus was doing and what is happening. One time a year, the high priest would go to the festival, before the Father, and he would pray for the entire world, and he would ask God to deliver them and to let them be protected and to make sure that nothing came and touched his people. That's what Jesus did. And how do we know that's what Jesus was doing? Because Jesus came to fulfill everything that was written in the law. And in the fulfillment of, we see Aaron and his sons going before the high priest, just Aaron. His sons were at a certain point, but he went all the way in. He went all the way and confessed the sins of the people, and he made atonement. And one thing I want us to understand, when Jesus is before us, when we are talking to people in the world who have not made the commitment to be in God's presence, to be a part of this thing that we call, we need to understand what was happening. People say, they reference like the Old Testament when they were doing the sacrifices of the animal. Or if somebody came against you, the law of the day was an eye for an eye, a life for a life. But with this, in this moment, Jesus is saying, my life for your life. So when we're talking to people about why God is so good and to be persuaded to come and join me, it's not about, getting into this religious rote system. It's about somebody took his life for your life. So for the rest of your days, you'll be able to walk before the Creator without worry and concern that your name is written on the book. Okay? So we want to make sure we understand what Jesus was doing. But Jesus was doing what Aaron did, and what Aaron did was pray. He prayed for everything that was done for the previous year. He prayed for everything that was going to occur in the next year, because God is cyclical, so he's going to do it again. So he prayed for that. But when Jesus got up here, he not only prayed for the glory of the Lord, he also prayed for himself to be glorified, himself to be worthy of taking on this cross, to be able to go up there and say, I've done everything that I was instructed to do in our meeting. When they say let us, I've done everything that I was instructed to do so that these people can be acceptable in your sight. Glorify my act. Honor what I've done. Let me know that this is going to work, because I'm giving my life for their life. I'm giving up everything so that they can have life. And no one can take it. No one can take your life out of your hand. Okay, so Jesus also prayed for his leaders. So when Bishop gets up here and he's praying over the offerings, and he's praying over the ministry, and he's praying over apostle, he's praying over the direction, he's praying so everything goes well, right? And I'm like talking to different people about our ministry, because I know it's growing. And they're like, well, where's the bishop? Do you guys have a male voice in there? I'm like, yeah, you only see Bishop if we're in trouble. If Bishop comes up in here, nothing is wrong, but something must be done. So I laugh about that, because he will pray. So when we see Bishop praying, also see him in the image. And it's not calling him God. It's just saying that when he made us, he said, let us make them in our image. Let them look like us. Let them, when people see them, let you see God. And you see this holy man praying over everything. And that's what he's doing. He's making sure everything goes well. But his presence is felt. But you only get a talking from the bishop when you're in trouble. When apostle is like, go fix these people, he will go and pray, right? So that's what Jesus was doing when he was praying for his disciples, making sure everything went well. And then he prayed for all the believers. And that, again, is what Aaron was doing when he was before God. And he prayed for all the believers and letting them know that they will never be alone. God is constantly telling us that he'll never leave us. He'll never forsake us. He'll always be on our side, going before us, fighting for us. And the blessing will go from generation to generation. But the responsibility in the Song of Moses, Deuteronomy chapter 2, is you must teach it to your children. You can't inherit what you aren't taught. So sometimes we look at inheritance as this thing about money. It's not about money. It's like, if I didn't see my mother pray, if I didn't see the bishop pray, I'm not going to pray, because I don't know how to pray. If I don't sit at the kitchen table with my children and talk to them about the goodness of the Lord when we get up, when we lie down, when we walk down the road, they're not going to inherit it. Right. We don't just inherit blood. Right. We inherit habits. We inherit patterns. We inherit the good and sometimes the bad. So you can't just be like, let me go put this kid in church and hope they will get it, right? You're going to get it. He's going to get it, but you won't get it. You're not going to get the blessing of sending your child. The child is going to get the blessing. So that's why we have to know when he's talking to us about the prayers, when he's talking to us about feeding these things into our children, he wants it to pass from generation to generation. Okay? So I'm going to end it there, because that's the Torah portion. Amen. That was the Torah portion, and I hope we got something out of it. I hope that we see that God is moving. But that's the Torah portion. The rest of this is going to be a quick synopsis of what is Yom Kippur. And I want you guys to understand what is being done in synagogues around the world at this time. And I'm going to give you some more scriptures to read in your week, because we're going to get Yom Kippur on Sunday, right? And the rest of that time, you're going to be focusing on the Feast of Booths. You're going to be focusing on getting your offerings together and making sure that you understand that everything for this year is going to go well. every aspect of your life is going to go well. So when we're looking at Yom Kippur, they do a service, and it's called it's different portions of the service. Kol Nidre, right? And they're reciting different blessings to start off Yom Kippur. And in that, they are blessing everybody, just like Moses said. It's a legal declaration of what they're going to do as this year proceeds. It's a time to get your goals in order. Now, Apostle has us on this quarterly thing where we're getting things done, getting things in order, making sure we're accomplishing our goals, and making sure we're not like worthless. I don't want to be worthless. All right? So that's what the blessing is about, making sure everything opens up and everything you receive. Now, they also follow with an evening service, right? It's called the Ma'ari. And in this service, they're reciting prayers. They can include the Amidah. They can be, this is where Bishop comes in, when he's praying for us and annulling every ridiculous thing that we may have said or done. He's going up and praying before the Lord about things that they said in error. And it works, because I've done a lot of things in error that he's had to correct, and I had to know the word was working on my life to have that protection of a father and also of a pastor leader person. So that's what they do. They annul every vow, and the high priest, which is going to be that we're in a patriarchal system, but he's going in and he's praying over those different things for us, and he has the authority to do it on behalf of Jesus. But just know that Jesus is the one doing this for us, but we need a picture of what's happening in real time, because some people just don't know how to get in the spirit and see there's something bigger than what's happening in your eyes, right? The second service, and this happens in the morning because we do evening and then we do morning, and then the second part of this, or the third part of the service, is where they're reading all of the different things, all of the different Bible passages as it relates to Yom Kippur, and just focusing on the fact that our name is written. We don't have to worry about not being in the book. The next service is the Yitzkor. And in this part of this service, it's a memorial for people that haven't made it in. It's so important, and I'm talking about they've passed on. It's so important that we know no one is lost. We're always under heaven. We're always having that prayer going out before us to where we can even remember those people. And Apostle used to say, when we were celebrating differently, we were recognizing January to December. She was always, people ain't gonna make it in, right? But people leave around October. People leave around November. People leave around December. I mean, as new life comes in, another life is ending, and it's just the cycle of God, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just bless people that you have lost. I know some people I talk to, they're lost some people, and it's just they're still there, and it's like, but Jesus will give you joy for your weeping, but you just have to, you gotta have the word in you. You gotta have foundation in you for you to know, because when I lost my pup, I've never lost anything before, and I've lost people, but never lost something that dear to me, and it is to God fixing me to be able to look at people and not think they were worthless. Because you don't want to interact with people in that time, So anyway, the next part of the service is called the Musaf. It is an additional service, right? And of course, they're doing like the prayers and the blessings, talking about things from ancient times. And it's like I said, we're not religious in this place. And if you are, you're going to struggle until you get that religion out of you and become traditional. We honor what the Lord does. We honor what has been set before us. So they do that service. And then we have the Mincha service, which is like, some of the stuff is just daily that they build into the High Holy service. And in this service, it occurs in the afternoon, of course. We know we're reading the Amidah, right? Putting that blessing out there. And then the final service is like the closing service. It's called the Nila. And in this service, they lock everything down. They seal, you guys referencing Deuteronomy when Aaron was in there, in Leviticus chapter 16, and Numbers chapter, I think it was Numbers 29, where Aaron is up there sealing the blessing. And when Jesus in John chapter 17 made the blessing for all, he's sealing the blessing for that year. And so goodness will come and mercy will follow you all the days of that year and your life. So he's doing those different things. So when we're thinking about Yom Kippur, think about there's so much going on in the heavenlies. And if you want to reference any scriptures, Leviticus chapter 16, verse 1 to 34. And Leviticus chapter 18, verse 1 to 30. John chapter 17, the whole chapter, that's Jesus praying as the high priest. And anything else you'd like to reference, on that day, whatever you feel the need to dwell on, please do it. All right, that's it for the Torah portion.